In this video we want to talk about the project management body of knowledge. Now the project management body of knowledge, the PMBOK, is a collection of readings and information produced by the Project Management Institution, the PMI. So this is a collection of articles and cases which show good practice in the context of project management. It shows how projects can be set up, what to watch out for, what issues are likely to be confronted, how to go about solving these problems, and certainly looking into issues before they become big and problematic within companies. The PMI is a professional organisation for project managers with over 40,000 members. At least that's what we worked out. So it's a large organisation. The members pay a subscription, and in return they get access to this library of information, which is, as I said, cases of good practice, articles, some of them academic, some of them highly practical articles showing how to go about setting up projects, what to watch out for, what are the pitfalls. So useful material for project managers. The institution offers professional project management information, knowledge, frameworks for building and managing effective projects. So virtually everything that's required in terms of project management may be accessed through this particular information portal. And it's very useful for project managers to have access to that. It's reassuring for them that they're not expected to do something perhaps completely new. It's already been done. There are examples of it in the literature. The issues that they confronted have been written up and how they were addressed. So there's a lot of information available for project managers to access. Now the book itself defines a project as a temporary endeavour to create a unique product, service or result. A temporary endeavour. These are important words because the routine activities of a business is to produce perhaps standard batch output that's produced day in, day out to meet a particular market. So the companies are producing perhaps the same product over and over. But with a project, it's a temporary endeavour. In other words, it's got a starting point and it's got an end point. It's temporary. And the reason for that is because it is a project. Having been analysed and having been looked at by project managers and looking at how it works and what are the issues, if it's decided that it's worth being adopted by the business, then it would become mainstream within the business. It would cease to be a project. It would become part and parcel of the routines of the business. But as long as it's under investigation as a part of an overall system, as long as it remains as a project, it is temporary. It has a start point and an end point. It'll have a budget, it'll have a time scale, it'll have a scope, and it will be of a particular quality which will be expected from the finished product. But it should perform certain functions. Whatever the project is, it will have certain tasks to achieve. If it achieves those successfully, it will become mainstream within the business. If it doesn't, it will be rejected. So it is a temporary endeavour. That's what marks off a project from the rest of the business. Now, projects and operational activities. Well, projects, as I said, have got this time dimension. They are limited in time. They've got a start point and an end point. Operational activities are the activities of the business which run day in, day out. These are the ones that produce the product that's sold on the market. And these are produced on a continuous basis. So we have a distinction here between projects, which are very much time-bound, and operational activities, which seem to be routine production of the business, standard lines of production. There are similarities between projects and operations, however. For a start, human resources are required for both types of tasks. Projects will not work unless there is human intervention. There has to be a project manager and perhaps a project team. Well, that's human. They will intervene, they will try to work out what's required and initiate the project and get it working. It's human intervention. But the same happens within business. Even though there's a high degree of automation within business and an increasing amount of automation within business, there tends to be still a human factor. So projects and operational activities have human involvement as a common base, a similarity between the two. They work within limited resources. Both have budgets. A project, when it's set up, will have a budget. The management want to know how much will it be to do something in a particular way. That's the project. But they will give it a budget. It's not open-ended. It's not going to go on forever and sap all of the resources of the business. It has a budget because it must be brought in within that budget. But so also has the business. Each department within the business will probably have a budget, departmental budget, within which it must operate. So both of them work with limited resources. Activities follow a structure, planned, executed and monitored. Both activities, both the operations of the business and the operations looking at a particular project, both of them must be structured. It can't be random or haphazard. If the processes were like that, they were almost doomed to fail right from the start. They must have a structure, they must be planned, they must be organized, they must be executed in a particular way, and the outcomes must be monitored, and there must be feedback and learning from the exercise. In other words, there is a process, and both the operational side of the business and the projects side of the business both must follow structures. It's not just made up on the day. So they have those in common. There are differences between projects and operations as well. Operations are continuous and repetitive, as I said earlier. Projects have an end date and aim to achieve a unique outcome. Again, I said this earlier, but that is a big difference between the two. Operations, continuous, repetitive, making a product that's going to the market. Projects, looking at a particular issue, trying to solve a particular issue, and looking at a unique outcome. So there are differences. Projects achieve their objectives, deliver outcomes, and end project. Operations aim to sustain the business performance even after objectives have been achieved. So the projects are very much focused on themselves. They have a starting point and an end point. They have a discipline that it relates to the project. They have an expertise in the team, the project manager and the team, and they're trying to solve a particular problem. The operations end is more looking at the business performance and efficiency and quality, and it's looking at objectives, perhaps corporate objectives that have been set for it, and it's trying to achieve these objectives. but it's also trying to sustain the business, trying to maintain good cash flow and a good rhythm of production. So again, differences between projects and the business. Now, projects and strategic planning. Well, organizational projects are often developed in order to achieve a strategic plan. Sometimes the business, within its strategic planning framework, will identify certain requirements which perhaps currently they don't have. So they set up projects to try and fill those gaps. The gaps can be in HRM, training programs, or the gaps could be in terms of recruitment, or it could be in terms of production, whatever it is. They identify some issues that's, in a sense, holding back their strategic objectives. So, to fulfill the strategic objective, they initiate these projects to try and work out the best way to solve a particular problem, and then integrate that learning, that outcome from the project, from the study of the project, integrate that into the business so that the strategic plan may be achieved. The need for projects arise due to the following. Projects can arise because there is a demand within the market, demand for the product within the market. It could be customers, or it could also be issues associated with the demand in the product. For example, competitors supplying part of the market and taking part of the consumer demand. So again, a project is required to introduce some sort of innovative product or innovation which will beat the competitor, but will also meet the demand of the customers by supplying a quality product at a price which is affordable, and yet generate the revenue that the business requires to preserve itself and to generate profits. Improvements and shortfalls within the organization. Sometimes projects are just introduced because there are issues within the organization. It could be that communications within the organization is very poor, and there's a project brought into play to try and improve communications. Perhaps looking at a local area network within the business to facilitate better transfer of information. Or it could be some electronic monitoring system for looking at tolerances on production, or monitoring of output, or monitoring particular machines, or whatever it is. Again, the projects are brought into existence because there is some need within the business. Also, projects sometimes come into existence because of technological developments. We live in a world which is typified by technological change. There are new products and new ways of working coming out all the time. And sometimes new developments come on the market which should really be integrated into certain production systems within a business. But the business simply don't want to buy the new technology and integrate it. They want to have a project to see how it will work, what are the pitfalls, what are the issues, how can they be overcome, what are the advantages and disadvantages. So they initiate a project looking at how this particular technology can be integrated within the business and what are its implications. Could be legal requirements as well. Sometimes there could be consumer legislation, for example, which may affect the product design or the product attributes. And again, the management may have to set up a project to look at variations in the design, but variations which will meet the new legal requirements, and the project will be brought into existence to try and work this out before it's rolled out totally within the business. There's also changing customer demands, not just the demand within the market as in point one, but changing customer demands. Customers are continuously looking for new products, new ways of living, new designs, and businesses may have new product development areas or departments, but when a new product is developed, it might go to a project to see how it can be produced, implemented, delivered, marketed, and it may go to a project manager for scrutiny in that sense, to look ahead as a project. So changing customer demands may bring this about. Now, the PMBOK provides a definition of project management, and as you can see, that's a very extensive definition. I suggest you don't attempt to commit it to memory, but it may be worth writing it down. So it may be worth stopping the video and just copying it down. It is full of meaning. Project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. Project management is accomplished through the application and integration of the project management process of initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling and closing. So it's full of terms that we meet when we study project management. As I said, it's not really advisable to commit it to memory or attempt to do so. Your time may be better used in other ways, but it's certainly worth noting it and having it available, because it is a good definition. It's full of meaning, it's full of relevant points. So just take it down. A project is managed by a project manager who oversees project activities. Identifying the needs and purpose of projects, that's a part of the remit of the project manager. Trying to identify the needs and purposes of projects. What's the purpose of the project? What's it trying to do? What are its needs? What does it require in order to be successful? That's the project manager trying to work that out. Setting a clear and defined goal and objectives. So it's important that projects have clear statements of what it is they're trying to achieve. Otherwise, they're going to go in circles. They're going to waste time. There's going to be debates within the team because there's ambiguity. People don't know what they're doing. So it's best if there is a clear statement of goals and objectives. There's also meeting demands for limited resources. The project will have limited resources. It will be constrained by a budget. And the project manager must meet the demand of trying to deliver the project with that limited resource package. Also looking at quality. The output should have good quality. If it fails on this front, it will be seen as not an effective project. In fact, the outcome of the project will be suspect, and the project may be rerun, and it may also be rerun with a different project manager, because the previous one did not achieve the quality that was expected. It should be brought in on time. If there's a time scale on it, on the project, that time scale should be met. The scope, what is it aiming to do? What's it trying to do? Is it too wide? Is it trying to achieve too much? Or perhaps it's too narrow. It's not demanding enough. So what's the scope of the project? And the cost. The project manager will be given a budget, and the project must be brought in within that budget. There should be no overspend on the budget. Now, there is quite a famous relationship within the project management area, which is known as the triple constraint. This is actually the subject matter of other videos on this course, but we'll just run over it again briefly here. The triple constraints refer to the requirements for completing successful projects. So what are the constraints for completing successful projects? Well, the constraints are cost, time, and scope. 3. That's known as the triple constraint. And if those are got right, if those work properly, there should be good quality associated with the project. Clearly, there are trade-offs between these. If the cost of the project increases, the project manager will have to try to economize someplace else and perhaps even reduce the time scale of the project to try and save on costs. That may impinge on the quality of the product. Likewise, if the scope of the project is widened, if it suddenly is looking at something and something else, something new, it's looking at its original target, but it's also looking at something new now, the scope is increased. But the cost remains the same, the quality may be compromised. So it's often represented in this triangle with at the apex of each apex there is the scope, cost and time, and in the center there is the quality. The quality of a project is dependent on these 3 constraints. The quality projects are those that deliver within the time frame, cost and scope. So quality projects are ones that are within the time scale, the cost and the scope. If either element is out of balance or unfulfilled, this will have a direct impact on the project and its quality. As I said earlier, if the costs increase, the project manager may have to try and reduce time to try and save, or reduce the scope of the project. In either case, the quality of the project is being diminished. If the time scale is reduced by management and the cost is kept the same, then something has to give. The quality of the project will probably be impaired. So these are some ideas about project management and the body of knowledge, as it's called. It's worth going over the video a few times, making your own notes and adding them to what you read from other sources. But that's all we're going to deal with in this session, so let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.